Everybody, welcome to the ASS Podcast. That's the Animation Success Stories podcast. If this is your first time watching the ASS Podcast, what we do here is we talk to animation industry professionals and we find out their story, how they got in the industry, what hurdles they had to jump, and what rivers they had to traverse to get to where they are now. We try to talk to different people with different professions in the industry to try to give you guys a little bit of an outlook of how things work if you're a newbie to the industry or if you're thinking of getting into the industry. I'm Anthony. I'm one of the hosts. I'm here with Brian and Sabrina. They're here to help me host.
Hi.
And today on our podcast is Steve Yurko.
Hey, yo.
Applause.
Steve Yurko. Steve
That's
Yurko,
a cool name.
It's Yurko.
Thank you.
It is a really cool name. Yurko.
Yeah, you never really see it too often. Though, ironic enough, in my hometown, there's another Yurko family.
What is it? Like what?
No relation?
No relation, no.
Where does it come from?
I don't, the Ukraine, maybe? I don't know. I'm like a bunch of things.
That makes
I
sense.
don't know
That
my
makes
background.
It doesn't care. It's either that or Slovak, somewhere in
That sounds good. I like
that
Slovak.
area.
It sounds like a ninja name.
Yurko. Steve is a storyboard artist. He works for shows that have appeared on Comedy Central and that will appear on Adult Swim soon enough. We're going to find out a lot more about him right after this intro. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Animation Success Stories podcast. That was all marble mouth, but you know what I'm saying. It's the ASS Podcast. And as I said before you heard that wonderful music, we're here with Steve Yurko today.
In the ass.
Oh yeah, I always say that. Today in the ass is Steve Yurko.
I hope it's not my ass.
That would be impressive.
It sounds rather uncomfortable.
So
be gentle.
Contortionist stuff.
we will start off this podcast as we start off most podcasts talking about what got you interested in animation in the first place. How did you grow to love cartoons?
It's as simple as just me just sitting in front of the TV most of my childhood.
Oh, nice. What era was this childhood? For people that are listening and can't guess how old you are, what era was
I want
your
people to
childhood?
guess. Luckily, I keep my hair really short, so I think it throws a lot of people off.
What
so.
were like two of your favorite TV shows? Cartoon TV shows.
Hey, man.
I said two. So.
Two. Because I felt like every couple years it like
changed.
shifted. And my child.
When you were like
my childhood was a long
first,
time.
got into it. Like when you first started watching cartoons.
It's, I always grew up with the Disney movies.
Okay.
I think that's like just that's a huge part of my childhood. Like,
Aladdin?
I was a huge Dumbo guy. Dumbo is still my favorite.
Oh, we're going.
Trips me
Yeah.
out.
That's a good one.
Well, like I was big on Snow White, but like Dumbo was consistent. Like I went through some
Wow.
I think I went through some like Disney fan fads. Like I remember Oliver and Company got like a re-release in theaters, and I love that movie.
Dude, I remember seeing that with my big brother.
All the
I
ones
saw
that
that
tug
when it
on
was
your
out.
heartstrings really bad.
Dumbo, my favorite animal is an elephant, so it's
okay.
like I was a huge
So
fanboy
is
for that
something-
movie.
Is that a show you watched as like a small little wee lad, like a 2-3-year-old, since it was around at that age? Is that what age did you start to get interested?
I could.
I like how this is about his age.
Yeah, well, as early as I can remember. I just remember being at just a relative's house, and I remember just saying like, "Can I watch Dumbo?" And just watching. And that wasn't my first time watching Dumbo too. So that must have been even before like preschool.
Oh, wow.
I'd say around that era.
So the interest sparked like 3 years old, 2, 3, 4 years old. Around there.
I like it's almost the same as me drawing. It's just as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
You always have. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in the industry kind of feel that way. Like they don't remember a time they didn't love animation or love to draw.
Well, it also depends on when your memory starts developing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like-
mine developed at age 12.
It'd be
That's
kind of
when I
odd
started.
to remember all those infant years. Prefer not to. I think we don't want to relive what it was like shitting our pants. Yeah, that's further down the line.
Or
We'll
what it was
visit that
like
again.
in the womb.
But I think I can remember the moment where it clicked with me that I liked making
perfect.
art at least.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, my grandmother on my father's side, his mother, she was a self-taught oil painter, but not professional or anything. Just did it. You know, family never really encouraged it as a career, unfortunately, and she was awesome. And I just remember being over at her house, and she just had a bunch of paints, you know, watercolors and stuff out for my brother and I just really took to it. I don't know what the hell I was trying to paint, but it kind of looked like a buffalo, so we just went with that.
So you at an early age, you took some oil paints and just started making shit.
Well, not oil. Oil's expensive.
It's not. Grandma's not getting that.
Yeah.
Oh, Sonny, don't touch my paint.
They you know, grandmother's like spoiling you, but not that much. But yeah, just taking a paint, and then just since then it was just. There's always been an interest, yeah.
So going back real quick before we go any further, like you said, like you were sitting in front of your TV a lot. Was there any like television shows, like animated shows that you watched as a kid, or was it mostly just like you popped in the VHS of Disney?
Like Disney was the beginning, like all those animated movies,
Sure.
and I think before I finished preschool, I think the only channel I knew of that had like children's television or like cartoons, it was like PBS and like Disney Channel.
Sure. So Arthur.
Before I was a little bit before Arthur,
yeah.
but Arthur kicked in like a few years later.
We were like 9,
Franklin,
maybe
yeah.
13.
I was like, I think I was like in the second grade when Arthur really blew up.
Yeah.
And then when we moved, that's when I found out about Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network at the same time.
So let's go there for a second. So you said when you moved. So where were you to start, and where did you move to?
Like most people out here, I'm a transplant. I'm originally from New York.
From New Jersey.
Oh,
like
cool.
most
We're
people.
in Jersey.
Central Jersey, Madwan.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like kind of on the shore, near Asbury Park-ish area.
Oh,
Yeah.
I went there once to go see The Damned.
Oh, the Damned. Oh, shit, man. Yeah, I've seen some pretty good punk bands in
Yeah.
Asbury Park. That's a great. Where did you see the Damned? Stone Pony?
Yes, Stone Pony. I was
Yeah.
gonna say Iron Horse, but
Oh,
there we
you were
go.
close. Nice, dude. That's
That's
right.
also
Same
a great
Those
area
are both
arena
great
name.
names. Yeah, that's my old stomping ground over there. That's really cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Man, so I got excited there for a second. Let me go back to what I was thinking.
Well, anyone that
Oh, yeah.
everyone that
Oh,
lives in
where'd
the
you
city
move?
just
Yeah.
refers it to upstate New York.
Sure.
It's the Hudson Valley area.
Sure.
That's where I grew. It's nothing special, but it's like an hour away from the city. And that we only moved another town over, so that's where I lived my entire life.
Oh, cool.
And you just move one town over, and all of a sudden Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network exist in your cable subscription. So
And that's about the time what like Hey Arnold is going on the air.
no,
Or is that
way
that?
before, way
Before that,
before.
so it's like early 90s.
I'm much older than that. You guys are making me out to be a baby. At that point, what was that? Moved in 93 or so. So by then, that's the heyday of Rugrats.
Yeah,
Ren and
Rugrats.
Rocco's
Stimpy,
Modern Life.
Rocco,
Rocco
yeah.
just came out, I think 93, 94.
And
right?
Cartoon Network was mostly like the Hanna-Barbera reruns, but still, it was something.
Cool. So you had a lot of different parts of the spectrum affecting you as an artist, or as a kid at least,
Oh,
watching
yeah.
these things. Hanna-Barbera, was Nickelodeon, it was Disney. When did it click for you, or what part in your age, in your life, was it like, okay, I want to do this? Because I know you said you discovered art was painting with your grandma, but when it was like, I want to do this is what I want to do.
It's tough for me to answer that because I think it was almost like it's always been a part of me, as corny as that sounds, but it just always was a part of me. It's like, oh, you draw, and that's that's where you get your kicks. That's what you enjoy doing. It's just, and I think just seeing all those movies and then watching TV shows, it just like this is the art form I just gravitated towards. I just liked cartoons.
So I have a question.
What's
Did
up?
you during like your elementary and then like middle school, high school, did you actually pursue it with those classes that you would take? Like, did you like take art classes very seriously?
I think throughout all the way from elementary school through high school, any chance I had to draw, I did it.
Okay.
If there was ever a project, I'm thinking this is more of a high school thing, but when you just had like a selection of different assignments you could do, it's like, oh, you could either do like an essay,
Yeah,
screw
yeah.
that, or this, blah, blah, draw a poster or something, and I was just like, ooh, that's mine, doing that.
Were you ever like seeking, like asking teachers at that age about this field, or like were you even thinking about it at all, or no?
I guess as a kid we really didn't do too much of the legwork because my mom found out about like just a Saturday art class that I took for many years.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't so much as a class as much as it was just hey, show up and
paint
just
and draw.
Yeah. My teacher just had like a bunch of different supplies from like pastels to oil paints to acrylic paints.
Okay,
It's like a
that's
general art
cool.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just meet up.
Yeah, just every Saturday.
Workshop.
Chill and do some art and
Yeah.
stuff.
And I think that's kind of what like developed my whole work process. I find myself to be very project oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was the kind of guy that had like a sketchbook that just filled that out every 2 weeks, sitting in a cafe
Don't
for
we
hours,
all?
drawing people. That shit could bore the hell out of me.
Oh yeah.
Those
what's
people
more
are
your
impressive
process?
though.
It's whether it be just doing an illustration or because in that class I used to paint cells, not like kind of like animation cells, but not like I'm making a film or anything, but just come up with an illustration and then just have different layers and then
And like paint it on the back and like draw it on the cell and then paint it.
and then like we
we
put it together in like a foam frame and like they were really cool and I did like a shit ton of those.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's just and I think that's just me. It's like I can't really like sketch a tree and be like, oh, I was just feeling this and I just sketched a tree or this person in a coffee shop. I'm like, I'd rather be home working on something that I could show everybody and be like, look what I did.
That leads me into a question I have, which I already know the answer. But you're relatively...
So we don't have to ask?
Yeah. All right,
No. Brian.
So you're relatively new to animation.
Yeah.
Yes, but in between the time before you joined animation to kind of you were pursuing your artistic talent, what were you doing?
What do you mean?
Like, what have you been doing between now to animation?
Do that.
Yeah.
You'll soon to find out about me. There's never like there's never a well thought out plan.
Mm-hmm.
All I ever wanted to do was just draw, and I just drew the things I liked. I drew the shows I liked, and I drew the the movies I liked, all those characters, and just assumed that I'm gonna do this for a living one day.
Yeah.
Not thinking about and I knew about animators. I knew about I think back then I just thought everything was just animator.
Yeah.
I never thought
You
of the
didn't know about
details.
the little jobs with
Yeah.
the animation, like the storyboarding, and
All
the
that.
designing. Sure.
I just assumed people did that. I thought I'll do that. I'll figure out some point in high school. Luckily for me, I think where I grew up, the schools had a pretty good art program.
Oh, cool.
Middle school, you took an art class every year.
There we go. Okay.
Though the way it was split up, I think it was like I think there was the school year would be like 4 quarters, so you would have it 1 quarter, and then you would take like a home ec, bomb the shit out of that class. If I could have, I would have taken 4 art classes the full year. So, and then once it was high school, I think you were only required just take 1 art class. And that would, and not your freshman year, that would start sophomore year. So come sophomore year, just gung ho drawing class, boom. And luckily art program at my high school, some great people, and they knew like, well, he gives a shit and he's got a talent. So they actually, my teacher would call me in one time to meet up with him just to like figure out what classes I was going to take the rest of my high school tenure. And from there, from my junior year, I was taking a graphic design class, a film class,
So good.
animation.
Oh, they had an animation class in high school.
Yeah.
Was this an art high school?
No,
Oh, wow.
public high school
There's an
with a
animation
fantastic art program.
Oh, I never heard of an animation class in high school before.
No, and I don't think it's taught anymore.
Yeah.
But
That's pretty great.
I,
So I'm gathering that you knew you wanted to do something in the art. You knew you wanted to draw, but you didn't know how to manifest that and kind of push that towards what direction. It was just kind of, I want to do this. Wherever I end up, I'll end up. So when did you realize you wanted to do when did you realize you could make money from drawing?
like I said earlier, I just assume that
assumed
it's a
eventually.
job. It's like
Yeah.
being a fireman or an astronaut. It's just
I can
happens.
I can help on that question.
Yeah.
What did you do to make money for art?
nothing for a while.
Oh yeah.
I want to say even like up to my senior year in high school, I didn't really know what I was gonna do. I just was like, well, I like to draw. I want to make a living out of it. I thought I was just gonna wind up going to a state school. And no offense to my parents, it's not like they, did anything wrong, but they don't know what the hell, like, how to get into the art industry. So they just know, like, oh, you go to college and I guess you major in that. I thought I was gonna wind up going to a state school, and I remember just touring this one specific state school. I just happened to be visiting that state. And just remember feeling so embarrassed because whoever it was that we wanted to meet with just to talk to me, it just really made me feel like an idiot. Not intentionally, but it was more like, yeah, that's cool. You want to do art, but that's not really like that's not the major. You gotta do something else, and then you could do that in like your last 2 years. I was like, I don't give a shit how nice this school looks. It's like this is just high school again. I don't want to do that.
Where did you end up?
It's kind of what happened to me. Community college.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that story. Many people I've heard for similar things. Yeah.
College is just tough in general, just getting into. So sometimes you gotta make do. I went to School of Visual Arts in New York City.
Oh, yeah. Really? Yeah, I have a good friend of mine went there around the same age as you. Maybe you graduated with him. I don't know. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And that was something I wasn't even considering art school, and despite being from New York, I would go to the city every now and then with my family. But I was afraid to go to go in the city. I thought like, oh, it's too much. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's overwhelming. It's scary.
Intense. It's an intense place, New York City.
Especially New York. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you ended up going to SVA. What did you end up studying at SVA?
Cartooning, which still seems really vague.
Yeah.
But what cartooning was comics.
Yeah, that was my friend's major too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I'm gonna be guessing who your friend is.
We'll talk about that.
But
after.
and by then, I around like middle school, because I guess like anime was my angsty teenage phase.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So that kind of really introduced me. Like I was familiar with comics, but that really got me into that genre. So I figured like, well, I think there was a point where I thought, should I go towards comics or animation? And at the time, I thought, well, comics, I know it doesn't take as much like materials and all that to do.
Yeah, it's cheaper, I guess.
Yeah, and for me just being one person, sounds like something I could do on my own.
So you were reading a lot of manga kind of thing, and you wanted to kind of produce that kind of content.
Yes.
So you decided to do comics.
And I thought most of the stuff I like came from a comic, or a manga. So I figured might as well just start there instead of trying to make animation. Though honestly,
you went through all 4 years as a cartooning major?
Yes.
You got your BFA.
Oh yeah, I knew what I wanted.
Nice, man. That's awesome. That's really
that
cool
helps.
To hear. Yeah. So after you finished at SVA,
yes.
When did you make the leap and you were like, all right, I need to get a job now, I need to make money, and how did you use the skill you learned at SVA to start working? Or was there a long period of time where you just kind of were like, what am I doing with my life?
Well, by my senior year, I remember our portfolio review with the head of our department. I just remember at that point, the writing was on the wall. I just said, well, I'm probably going to go home, get a part-time job, save up some money, and see where I go from there. Because I don't blame a school or any schools for doing this. Like, schools aren't made for you to just say like, okay, now we're going to teach you how to get a job, and we're going to help you get a job. We're going to help every single one of you, special little people get a job.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like
this
that.
Podcast. I'm just kidding.
Well, who knows? Probably in a few years there'll be classes on how to start a podcast.
Oh my God, there probably are already.
Yeah, they probably have that already.
Sounds like a thing.
I see that.
I did take an anime class.
Oh, there was an anime class. Wow.
Well, it was one of my teachers. One of my teachers I had taken previously, just like it was a well thought out class, and it's like, oh, just find out more. It's not just, well, we're gonna watch a couple episodes of Berserk and just have a good time. Sorry, but I think like you're told some ways to go about networking and all that, but the comic industry. And I mean, I could say this considering I never really broke into it. It's hard to break into.
Oh, for sure. Did you ever think of doing webcomics?
Yes, and I do have one that hasn't been updated in quite a while, but there's always something going on, and I can't go back to it.
We'll link it, right?
Of course, yeah, I'll mention it.
What's your webcomic called?
It's called Jason and the Princes of the Universe, which was something I started in college. Once again, it's Jason and the Princes of the Universe. that wasn't the title I wanted. It was just a temp title, but my class was like, you should call it that. And I'm like, all right. It was our junior thesis.
Okay.
And here's a problem I have is it's just too much. Sometimes less is more. And with me, I think the theme for the junior thesis was to adapt like a Greek myth and make it modern. And then I had an idea, and I just started rolling with it. And
Jason and the Argonauts?
Yes.
Nice.
And the problem is I turned it into an epic when it was only really supposed to be a 16-page comic.
That happens.
But I refused. I was like, no, this is my magnum opus. I think that's what I call it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be remembered for my junior thesis.
I got some pages done.
Yeah.
They weren't all in chronological order. It wasn't beloved amongst the head of our department. I did make it into the show, but I think most of us made it in the show, so it was all right. But my classmates, really dug it. That was probably the best class I ever had because it's something you don't normally see, especially from what I've heard because I knew some people that were the graduation class the year after me, and their environment, from what I heard, it seemed very competitive. Like everyone was just out to be the best.
Yeah.
No one, like everyone was cool, but no one was really, that close of friends.
That's annoying, especially if you have to work in groups. That's
Yeah.
annoying.
Which we didn't do. We all had individual projects. But my junior thesis class, it wound up being about 12 of us. It was like a kumbaya, campfire circle every week.
Oh, wow.
It was the class we looked forward to the most. We all gathered around and we had to, for those that had to present their pages that week, we had to make photocopies and hand them out to everybody. And we started, we were doing serious critiques, trying to help each other out. And then we'd also draw gags over, we'd redraw some of the
Who's the instructor? Who's the teacher?
Keith Mayerson.
Oh, cool.
Shout out.
And when I say kumbaya,
You literally
Keith
sing.
Mayerson, yeah, he
He's a
literally
hippie.
said that, but he is the epitome of that.
Oh yeah.
He's he really set that environment for us.
Campfire.
He really established the tone of it's just we're all trying to build each other
for
up.
sure. Camaraderie.
And that's something you don't see, and
Nope.
and because of that, I made so many friends in college, and I still talk to them.
Pretty cool.
We still talk to each other. We don't always talk to each other. We don't always see each other, but it's always it's come here,
For
hug.
sure.
And
that's
You
pretty
might
neat.
work with those people one day. So
yeah,
that's good.
that's something we should definitely talk about later. But that's one of the things I preach. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. I was gonna say though, so it seems like even though you didn't go the cartooning route eventually, you got probably a lot out of taking the cartooning course in SVA. Something,
Yes.
a lot of stuff that you probably
Oh,
still apply and use today as a storyboard artist.
Of course, from just figure drawing, learning, just learning the human anatomy.
I'm assuming cartooning, panel to panel composition in each panel, basic fundamental rules of cartooning.
Oh, yeah.
apply to storyboard art, storyboarding, right?
Staging, perspective. There's they're related. They're like cousins, you could say. I still did take some animation classes at SVA. I did just take a straight up just an animation class, just flash animation.
Yeah.
Took a character design class. If I could have, and it would have been a terrible idea, I would have double majored if I could have.
In animation.
Oh, I would have loved to, but it was too much. That's too much.
Yeah, it's a little too much.
It already just one major alone was a lot of work, but like I said, I liked animation. I just chose cartooning because I thought that I think I could pull that off. That's in me.
Cool. So, what did you do after SVA? I think Brian asked it earlier, so we're getting back to that question.
Those are the years I like to refer to as the vagabond years. Towards the end of college, my friends introduced me to the concept of Artist Alley.
Oh, what's up?
At conventions.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Anime Expo. That was
yeah.
all
Oh,
my
yeah.
jam.
I will be at Anime Expo this year, by the way,
Oh,
in the
there you
Artist
go.
Alley, because I still do it.
Probably won't make it out before then.
Oh well. Either way,
It might. Wait,
I might be at the following year and the year after that. I like that convention.
Because it's early July, right?
Yes, July 4th weekend.
Yeah.
This is probably coming out 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah, something like
We'll
something
see.
like
Just
that.
in time.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah.
But I started doing those my my last couple of years in college, and it was
Yeah.
a way, to make some money. And
Yeah.
I really wasn't making a lot, but to me back then, a couple $100 was a shit ton of money.
So basically, during that period between where you are now and graduating SVA, your main thing was you would do illustrations and you would print and whatnot. You would sell at cons.
Exactly. I worked a part-time retail job, hated it.
Yeah.
I just thought that's kind of what I had to do. Like that
Yeah, a
was,
lot of people think that.
cutting my teeth was just making money and then saving up and then doing cons. I think at one point, I did 13 or 14 cons in a year.
Man, did you make like a lot of money selling stuff? Were you able to kind of like support yourself?
It was, I was back home living with my parents,
Okay,
and I'm thankful that I have loving parents that didn't want to kick me out of the house immediately.
Yeah.
They cut me a lot of slack. But I was making money. At the time, I just thought I was going to just stay in New York. I thought I was just going to move back in the city sometime eventually. So I was just trying to make money and trying to save up just for the next con and then next con and then just save up for something eventually.
Not knowing what that eventually was.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
There's a pattern here and there's a theme here with me. Just
Yeah,
not
for
knowing
sure.
what the hell
Was
I'm
there
doing.
was there any point at all during this like this kind of cycle of going to cons and like that you kind of felt like lost or like hopeless at all, where you didn't know what you were going to do with your life and you kind of felt down on yourself?
So many times.
Oh yeah.
So many times. And I knew cons. I know people that make they make a living just doing conventions.
Oh, wow.
I enjoy doing cons, but I always knew that there's something beyond that. And there's times when a job opportunity would come through, and I thought, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is me transcending, going to another level. And it
The
didn't.
next plane, the next
Yes.
dimension.
The next plateau. And it didn't quite pan out, and I'd get bummed out, and sometimes some cons I wouldn't do too well or do as well as unfortunately. Unfortunately, I think as an artist, you think you're always going to compare yourself to other artists.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
It's natural.
It's impossible not to.
That's my fear of going to cons and selling my stuff. You're always gonna feel bad when people like go more for the booth next to you, and so you're like,
Last year at AX, I guess I was next to someone who was like an extremely popular deviant artist, and I
it's
just
annoying.
I'd never even heard of him. Some of my other friends did, but like they always had a line. I was like, oh man, I'm doing crappy. I ain't doing this. It turns out at that point
You're fine. It's just they
Yeah.
know this person, know.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't make that money, but I still make good money for me.
Yeah.
But it was many, because I graduated college in 2011, and it was just a long stretch. I'd say up to like 20, just at least like 3 years of me just doing cons and working part-time before something else clicked.
What was it that led you from doing this kind of conveyor belt of cons into the animation industry? Was there like somebody or something that kind of flipped that switch for you to go that direction, or how did you decide to do that?
Yes, there was. Thankfully, at least this will be a more interesting narrative. There was a moment where that clicked in my life, and funny enough, wow, Anime Expo's getting a lot of plugs on this podcast. You guys go looking at sponsorship, but I came out for Anime Expo in 2014, and I've been out to California a bunch. I have some family out here, but it had been many years. Had been 5 years since I've been out here. And I was excited just to come back to California. I was like, I'm just gonna do this con. And I thought it was gonna be a lot more competitive because there's a lot more professional artists out here, and some of them do artist salary. I thought, I'm gonna do this, and I started making. I had a few friends out here that I got to know earlier that year, and that was just through doing a art collab, via like Tumblr and Twitter.
Sure.
I made some friends through that, and so I came out, and I was like, oh, I know I'll get to see them and hang out with them.
Meet them.
And then here I am at one point, I'm in a Korean barbecue restaurant, and it's like a table of like 20-something people, and they're all artists. And I thought, like, shit, I haven't experienced something like this since college. And like people, and this isn't like a college class or anything like that. This is just everyone just hanging out.
Eat
Where they live.
And and I was deprived of that for so many years, and it started.
Food? Just kidding.
Yeah, food. Yeah,
Korean barbecue.
I could eat well. No, it's like the the gears started turning, and I thought maybe I should be out here if other people are out here doing what I want to do, and some of them are doing it. And because going from the city back to where I live, it's a huge difference. And of course, my friends, my college friends and I, we all went our separate ways. We're still like pretty much in the same area, but you don't hang out like you normally do anymore. And there wasn't much, there wasn't like a creative environment for me back home. So I just, and that was so much fun. I met like so many people, just all these artists. I'm like, this is crazy. Like all these people in one place. And I had a good time at the con. And my buddy that I traveled with, who's my current roommate, one day he just like hit me up, and this was like maybe like a month or two later, and he was like, what do you think about moving to California? And I was like, yeah.
Oh, that quick, huh?
Yes.
No hesitation.
I thought, because I was thinking it too. I was just like back home, and I'm like, it's good to be back home, but there's something there. I don't think I could deny it. And then he just asked me out of the blue. He's like, what do you think about moving? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Nice. Was he somebody that you went to school with?
Yeah.
Was he in your cartooning program?
Yeah, he was my friend in college.
Want to give him a shout out?
Yeah, Mike Lucas. He's an amazing artist,
Mike
and
Lucas.
he's worked. He's done a ton of.
Familiar.
Yeah, he's done a ton of comic work for Boom Studios.
Okay.
Yeah, really good artist.
Man.
Yeah, and that's like I said about college. It's like so many of my friends from back then
Yeah.
still talk to.
So you guys just packed it up and came out here?
Well,
2014?
Well, now we're back to the theme of just having a vague idea of what I want to do.
Yeah.
Luckily, my parents were very supportive of it. I think my mom always, foresaw me moving out there, or at least to a nice warm state, because she always knew I liked coming out here.
Yeah.
So, and she has family out here, so she knew. Well, at the very least, shit hits the fan. Someone could take him in.
You can
That's
bump with
great.
him.
That's
Yeah.
a good backup.
And my dad was also like, do what you gotta do. So
Do it.
and it was like, all right, so we're doing this. And I think I was still dancing around it. And then a friend of mine that I knew online via a One Piece forum for many years, fantastic artist, who wound up he never thought he was going to work in the industry, and then he made the jump, and he's mega successful right now. I think he's over at Disney TV.
Oh, nice.
A fellow by the name of Ben Jowono. Hopefully I didn't botch your name.
Shout out.
Also known as Ein.
Ein, yeah. Nice. He was a fantastic One Piece fan artist for many years, and
We met at Expo years ago.
Yeah. When I was still a little babby, but I think he was like a physics teacher or something, and then he just made the switch.
Oh wow, really? So you're an older guys, physics.
Yeah, and he was one of the first people that said like, you got to do it, and I said like, and he knew I was like uncertain about so many things. He's like, you know what? You just got to throw yourself in there. It'll light a fire under your ass. It will be good for you. And a few other friends just. When I told them I was thinking about it, they're like, you have to do it. So, and I was like, okay. But I'm like, I guess within a year, I'm going to just go out there. And luckily, another friend of mine who I met through conventions, also is an animation major at SVA, Sarah Ho. She was like, well, it's like me and, it's like my fiance, we're going to move out there. And I'm like, oh, so why don't we just go together? And we're like, yeah. So we did a big road trip.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
And that was, so this was almost a year later. So this was in June 2015. So it's almost a year after the
That
whole.
was so not long ago.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago, man.
The whole
Not even 2 years ago.
the Anime Expo awakening of 2014. Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what I'm gathering from this, like, I'm trying to think of like good advice to kind of give the people that are watching, like things for them to pick up. Like, you went to cons and you made contacts at these cons. So you met people and you through internet forums and through cons, you kind of made contacts and through these contacts, it kind of helped you push to where you were going.
It can happen. I have to admit, it didn't happen often. I did a lot of anime cons, and that's not really where professionals go to find the greatest new undiscovered talent. That was me having a good, making money, but having a good time. Like I said, I like going to cons. It really wasn't till pretty much 2014 kind of became a year where things kind of started to happen. I had a few right before that, I did have a few couple chances at testing to get a comic job, And one of them was around the time I started talking with Brian, and that was testing for the Rick and Morty comic. Because it just so happened I was at New York Comic Con Artist Alley, and Justin Roiland was perusing Artist Alley looking for potential artists to do the series. So
cool. So did you end up doing a Rick and Morty cover? Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
I tested for the comic, but didn't get the job.
But you have done something for Rick and Morty.
I did, because me doing conventions came up with a Rick and Morty. Just came up with the most basic, I guess the most straightforward Rick and Morty Pokemon parody of just Rick and Morty dressed up as Ash Ketchum and Professor Oak, and all the Pokemon are Cronenbergs.
That was you.
That was you.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
I see
me.
that everywhere. I had no idea that was yours.
And probably most places you see it aren't crediting me, so don't buy it.
So wait, you're like this, like the creator of the whole like spin-off, like Rick, Morty, and then Ash and whatever.
I suppose. I mean, I don't think.
Because I've like always thought of like ways to kind of like do like spoofs or parodies or something of Rick and Morty. And that, like, I could see that. I saw that one already. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because it just, like, worked really well.
Some people give me shit, though. They're like, oh, shouldn't Gary be Morty? And I'm like, no, because casual people won't get that.
Yeah.
It's like, you see the hat, you know it's Ash.
Yeah.
I kind of became a crossover guy, too, during my convention years, because me coming up with ideas, a lot of them were just crossovers. Like, I did...
They're still creative, though.
I don't like, not to rag on those too much, but they're everywhere now, and I'm like, that's not. I think that's just like artists talking about. I'm like, no, I don't want that to be my thing.
Yeah,
I want to do something better. And
I bet they sell well at cons.
Oh yeah,
crossovers are probably
like good. I did the cast of King of the Hill dressed up as Sailor Scouts. And
I saw that one too.
Whoever does that,
dude, I saw that one too. I can't believe you're the one. You're the guy who did that.
Yeah,
I see these
that's Yurko.
That's great. Man.
And if you want to know the backstory for that, it's not interesting, because people ask was like, what inspired you to come up with this? What was going through your head? I'm like, I was in a hotel room in Rosemont, Illinois, with my friends, having some drinks, and we were just talking, and we thought it was a funny idea, and someone said, Steve, you should draw that, and that's the end of the story.
That is a great
But I did that.
story.
But I did the Cronenmon, as I like to call it, the Rick and Morty, the Pokemon thing, and I was at a convention early 2015, and someone came by and was like, "Hey, it's like," and he was a vendor. He was a T-shirt vendor for a company, Zen Monkey Studios.
Sure.
I'm like, "Hey, we got the Rick and Morty license to do T-shirts, and we should put that on a shirt." And I'm like, oh yeah, shit. He's like, I'm meeting with Justin Roiland later this week, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy it, and I'll give it to him. I'm like,
whatever.
and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I got that. Either way, you're buying a print of mine.
Yeah.
And it was legit. They did get the Rick and Morty license to do T-shirts, and that was one of like the first shirts they made. We had to alter it a little bit, but so while I didn't get the Rick and Morty comic book job. There was a consolation prize there.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. That's pretty exciting that you did those. I always, every time I see those, I think about how much I love them. So that's great.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it wasn't until like the year before I moved when I think to bring it up is it's a slow burn, and it's a lot of work with no payoff sometimes for many years, and you just got to stick with it.
So how did you get your first industry job?
Well, so decided to pack up, move out here, and luckily Brian and I were talking a lot.
How did you guys meet?
That's funny.
It's always funny when you meet Brian.
because I'm a huge One Piece fan.
Yeah.
I just so happen to be a co-host on the One Piece podcast, which is a fan-run podcast going 9 years strong
We've
now.
heard so much about it.
Which I've been listening to for almost
8 years strong.
Yeah, I've been listening to for 8 or 7 years for sure.
And some guy happened to email us saying, "Hey, I've been a fan of your show. But I've been noticing you guys have been quoting a lot of Rick and Morty lately. I'm a director on that show." And I remember Zach shared that email with us. It's like, holy shit, look at this. We have to have him on. And I'm like,
Brian.
I'm like, yes, we do.
You're like, yo.
Well, I thought it was cool. I'm like, and to me, that was still such a distant world. And I'm like, wow, someone in a show I likes what we do.
That's great. So Brian, you were a fan. You were a fan of his podcast, and he was obviously a fan of something that you had a huge part of.
Yeah. Because like I've been listening to the One Piece podcast for a while. Because I went searching for the One Piece podcast because I had no one else to talk to. Like only me and Danner were like the only people I knew who watched or read One Piece.
Before the podcast, like I had some friends that were like, "Yeah, I'll watch it with you," but no one.
Yeah, no one kept up. So it was around when the war happened. Yeah. And around the reveal of chapter 550, I won't say for spoilers, but I was like, I need to talk to somebody.
That was my first episode on the show because if you're talking about what I think you're talking about.
150, the big reveal.
Yeah. The start of the arc, right?
Yes.
Guys, spoilers.
Hang with us.
We're fine.
Hang with us, folks.
But so I've been a fan since then. I check in with you guys on occasionally.
Yeah.
So at one point I started listening to, I think it was around Dressrosa, probably.
Yeah, I think at that point.
And I just noticed you guys kept quoting a lot of Rick and Morty lines. Like season 1 had just aired, and I was working on season 2 at the time.
And not enough people knew of that show yet. And I was stressing to everyone I knew. I'm like, you need to watch the show. The show is good. And I got a lot of whatever. And then it was almost like it was like the best disease possible. I just started spreading it on the podcast. And like one person would watch it, and then another person.
And then they would come to you and be like, "Dude, have you seen the show?" And you'd be like, "That's what I recommended to you a year ago." Asshole.
Posers.
A lot of people.
Posers.
But then we had you on, and then at the end you're plugging all your stuff, and then you plug your DeviantArt account, which it's Bandendorf.
Yeah.
And I remember my exact words were, "You're fucking Bandendorf." I knew this guy for years. Like we didn't really talk, but we followed each other on DeviantArt, and I loved his stuff. He has like a really cool, like very, like, I don't know, paper cutout.
I did.
I love when that happens.
So kind of
for One Piece and Mega Man.
So yeah, usually we.
What a small world.
I know. I love when that happens. It's great.
Well, it's definitely that's the industry out here for sure.
Yeah, that happened to me a few times. I'm like, I followed you forever on Tumblr or something like that.
But like you can't always put like faces to names or even artwork to names because you see so much artwork and just like you kind of learn people through osmosis.
Yeah.
And then you put two and two together. It's like, oh, you're that person. Like the same story with Ein. Like I met Ein at an anime expo, but I've been seeing his work on the One Piece forums forever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're that guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it just so happened at that time I was testing for the Rick and Morty comic, so I was like, should I show him the stuff? And Zach, our host, was like, yeah, you should. So I remember I sought your help. I was like, oh, give me some advice how to draw these.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah, well,
I'm not that good for advice.
It's okay. Well,
something.
We'll judge that by the end of the story.
So how did that transition to your first actual gig in the
Okay, so back to that. Yeah, I had to introduce how.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Became friends.
That's a really interesting part of the story. That's amazing that's how. I guess within fandoms, things are just kind of self-contained, and the same kind of people swirl around in that fandom.
And especially people know their shit and are really good at it. Then it's kind of like, all right, this person's not a total slob.
Basically, I asked Brian, hey, we're moving out there. Can I crash on your couch till I find a place?
Oh, nice. So you were the guy for him.
Yes.
Everybody has a guy. When they come out here, they have somebody that they crash on the couch for like a month.
I'm often the guy.
Yeah.
I was tweaking after 3 days.
Oh, yeah?
And it's no offense to you, but I was only living on your couch. I had to get my fucking life going again.
Sure,
so I was like, I can't live on a couch. I gotta start.
I'm sure Brian appreciates that.
Well, it was more so I was limited. I was like, I didn't have my setup or anything with my tablet and all that. I'm like, I gotta start drawing. I gotta start preparing. I don't know. I gotta find work. Luckily, Mike and I, my roommate, we found a place within that week because we got to your place on a Monday night and we got a place that Friday afternoon. So
that's good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quick, man. Usually
very
it's a
lucky.
longer time.
Yeah, out here, there's
So
a
I've
lot
heard.
of lazy people that take forever. Just like,
No,
search
just
tomorrow.
every day was just on Padmapper and
That's crazy, man.
Craigslist and all that
When I
stuff.
moved out here, it took me 5 weeks to get a place. I was on a couch I wasn't a couch. It was a spare room.
It's hard.
For 5 weeks.
No, it was tough because I found out like, it's like they want you to have credit and all that, and they want you to be working. And because of that, I needed my parents to co-sign, and that was a longer process. So some people would come in and beat us to the punch.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a weird catch-22 where in order to get a apartment out here, you need to be working already and have proof that you're working and pay stubs and all this stuff. But in order to start working, you wanted to have an apartment.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird catch-22. So you need to kind of always finagle that beginning part so you can get a place.
And at the same time, like studios on here aren't necessarily willing to hire somebody out of state. So I'm like, yeah, we'll hire you once you move out here. And it's like,
oh, that hardly happens.
It happens, but it's rare. Like I wouldn't place your bets on that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I know I've worked on some shows where we have people freelancing.
Yeah, for sure. That dog's angry over there.
Yeah.
Macy, get
Didn't
over
like
here.
that answer.
He's like, no, I'm going to live in New York and I'm going to work in LA.
But
woof, woof.
It's like the same thing where you're looking for jobs and people want you to have like 3 years experience. I'm like, I'm out of college.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have that.
You just got to do it anyway. Because they'll say that to kind of weed out the crowd. But honestly, if your work's good enough, you will be hired.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
For sure. So what was the first show you worked on?
My first animation gig was boarding on a pilot for Adult Swim through Stupid Buddy Studios called Hot Streets.
Hot Streets.
Cool.
And that hasn't aired. Has that aired yet? No.
That did air.
Oh, it did air.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Cool.
And
check out Hot Streets, people.
That was with some Rick and Morty people. Brian Weissel, who
I think he's a writer.
Yeah, I know he wrote for Rick and Morty, and of course Justin Roiland was a producer.
Yeah, Weisel's specifically more connected through Channel 101. That's where I know Brian from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that name.
Yeah, I know the name too. So was this a traditional kind of you took a test for the boarding and you got it kind of thing, or was it like
this is also through another connection?
Yeah, no, it was not. And let me just stress the fact that I still just thought that something was going to work out. So here I am, live in LA. Well, within like a couple months, I decided like I should get a part-time job. I should just have some money coming in while I figure this out. But and this was a huge mistake, but I'll admit this. I did not have a storyboard reel. Like I had my website, and I make art and all that. I was doing conventions, but I didn't have anything pertaining to the job I wanted, which is like you might as well just wear cement shoes and try to walk around.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah.
Your portfolio, I guess, should reflect exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily have that, but it was convincing enough to at least say I could draw.
Trust me, you don't have to see anything.
So my first gig, and it was through a connection. Brian's old roommate, MC Griffin, who I got to know through living in the apartment for a couple weeks with them. Cool. He hit me up out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, I'm storyboarding on this pilot. They want someone working under me. I suggested you. Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Great, you're in." I'm like,
quick.
"Oh, okay. I guess I have a gig."
So you said you didn't have any boarding in your portfolio. You didn't have a reel at all. But no. Did you do it at all before, or was it something you just kind of like, oh, I can learn as I go?
Yes. I like I said, I took some animation classes, high school, in college, and I was gonna take a storyboarding class in college, but I opted out to take another class. But I think it was an exception because it was being taught by a comic book legend.
You're like giving excuses. You're like, but
who
it's
is the legend?
Comic book legend.
Well, it's I don't know if you know who Walt Simonson is. Oh God, I said that in the shittiest tone too. I don't know if you know who Walt Simonson is, but
sounds familiar.
He's pretty much the Thor artist.
Oh, nice.
And he's been credited for like really carrying that series like all those years ago. I don't know who the fuck he was. Just my friends were like, "Hey, we took this class. It's great. You should take it." And I'm like, "Okay." Let me also emphasize that my entire college tenure was me taking classes with artists I had no idea who they were. Half the time, since I commuted my first couple of years, it was more like, well, this fits in a schedule. Good, I could take these 2 classes a day. Yeah, sure, whoever this is. And I'm finding out I'm getting taught by people that have worked on like, the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah. And
my one teacher, I chose. I definitely knew who he was, and I chose him deliberately. Was David Mazzucchelli, who did the art for Batman Year One.
Yeah, Year One
for my senior portfolio. I'm like, that guy, I'm taking him. Where the hell is this? But yeah, I didn't take that storyboarding class, and I thought, and it's funny, back then in college, I don't even know if I was even thinking of animation. I just thought, oh yeah, if I learned storyboarding, I could do commercials and stuff. I didn't even consider animation, which is ironic.
You learn on the job though.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. That couldn't be any more true. But so here we are, just hot streets, and they just asked me. It's like, oh, do you want to work? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Did you find it difficult to start boarding in the style they wanted, or was it something that you kind of picked up right away?
I feel like every job I've had so far has been like a nice introduction to what to do in this field.
Yeah.
Hot Streets, it was definitely a unique boarding process because it was kind of like rotoscoping in a way.
Oh.
The way you could look up some of Brian Weisel's stuff on YouTube, but it's this really crude looking animation over these 3D renders he made and whatever program it is. But pretty much what we're doing is like I think Weisel staged it, and then we're just like making actual drawings for it.
Okay.
So it was not like I was saying I couldn't draw, but it's like, okay, some of the legwork's been done, so I could come in, flesh these out a little bit more.
For sure.
And I was working at home. It wasn't a studio. And you remember like when I got this, and I was asking you guys, and I'm like, it's like, is this like legit? Do I have to quit my part-time job? And they're like, no. We know how much you want to, but no, you don't.
Yeah,
have to.
it's not yet.
Like
not on a pilot.
Yeah, it's freelance, so I think most of the time, if you're working on a pilot, it's just like it's no studio. Everyone's just.
What were your
home.
fears on the job? Like, what were things that you worried about? Like tiny things.
If I could actually do it, if I could actually do the job in general, MC helped me out a bunch. He helped, create my files for me. We did it all in Adobe Flash.
Okay.
So. But it was kind of just like you said, you just learn on the job and just like a duck to water. Just I'm like, all right, I'm doing this scene.
Swim.
That's pretty cool.
And we got it done. We had about a month to do it. Well, I had a month to do it. I think MC did a lot of revisions and stuff later on, some of the rewrites, but it was just, and that was within my first year because I came out here in June, and that was in November. I did that. So.
Nice. Less than a half a year.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So how did you transition to your next gig? What was your next gig, first of all?
My next gig was a storyboard revisionist on the second season of Legends of Chamberlain Heights, which is a new Comedy Central cartoon. Airs after South Park. A second season for a show that didn't even air yet.
Wow. They aired the first season.
The first season has aired now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but at that point,
They just knew that they were going to get a second season.
Yeah. I think it was more so that the execs and all those people just liked the show enough, and it's like, oh, it's like it doesn't cost us too much. So yeah.
For sure. How did you transition from the pilot to that show?
Now it was about half a year because this was in the summer of 2016. Mm-hmm. Once again, I was just doing cons. I mean, I was just doing cons anyway because, first of all, that's how I made money to move out here in general. Yeah. Cool. And like I said earlier about it, being a slow process, it takes time because, like I said, I wasn't making a ton of money my first couple of years doing conventions, and then there was a turnaround, and then I started making a decent profit, and I was like, then I just started saving up to move out, and I was like, well, I need these cons to keep some income coming in, so I was doing those, and then I was just contacted, and that was through you, I think.
Through Brian.
And you'll come to learn that a lot of this, it's through just, not only people but people who know you. I think I heard something.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
I think I heard that this was more of like an acting advice, but it's more like you want to be that person that people think about when you're not there, like when you're not in the room, like you're that person that comes to mind. Where it's like, oh, we need someone to do this, and like, well, I know a guy. Yeah, that's kind of what happened with the pilot.
And,
so.
And that's definitely the case because, like, I'm in that position where I hear a lot about different jobs for different people. Mm-hmm. And immediately what comes to mind is it's not just because they're necessarily the best. It's just the people who's like, who I've been talking to recently who hit me up about work. Because if someone hits me up about work, I'm like, oh, this person's looking for that job. I just heard about a job opening up at this studio. Mm-hmm. Let me send their contact over that way. Yeah. I mean, at Legends, they actually wanted me to go on as a director for when they were working on season 1. I was still on Teen Titans directing at the time. I'm like, I can't take that gig, but I kept in contact with those people, knowing that they would need artists at some point later. So that's how I was able to facilitate that. Well, I was just
and that's good on your part too. That's actually very nice for them. Like that's actually, I don't know, like it's nice that they have someone like you to do that.
Yeah, I mean that's how.
So they're gonna remember you regardless later on.
I mean, I know I've mentioned on this podcast before. It's like every job I've almost ever gotten is through friends and contacts. Just simply like, we know Brian. Brian's good. Keep him that way.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's how I managed to like. I keep all my. I often try to keep my friends employed and working because that might help me out later.
Yeah.
When I'm jobless and unemployed.
This guy.
For sure.
Well, and I think at that point too.
Good karma.
I also want to mention it's not like nothing happened. I think from the moment I finished working on the pilot, I got a test in for a Disney TV show, and I think
Pickle and Peanut.
Yeah, Pickle and Peanut. I tested on that, and from December 2015 through June of 2016, tested for Pickle and Peanut. Did a character design test for Rick and Morty. I don't know if that was through you or not. I think that might have just been me saying like, well, I draw the T-shirts and stuff.
You might have gotten that on your own. I don't remember.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah, I did a character design test for Rick and Morty. I did.
Sabrina beat you.
No, I didn't actually. I'm the cleanup artist, remember?
I would have taken that job too, damn it. No,
I asked to be a character designer, but we already talked about it.
I think
Get into that later.
I tested for a Warner Brothers show. I think they still haven't announced. That was a test I did in a day. Mostly in a day.
In a day. That's impressive, all right?
I didn't get the job though, but
what is wrong with you?
I'm starting to think that traveling was good for me because it seemed like every time I was leaving the state, someone would contact me about a test.
Same way I got my first job.
Yeah.
Like the 3 days after I left the state, someone's like, "Can you come in tomorrow for an interview?" I'm like, "No, I'm in Seattle. I can't. Can I wait till
Do they
Monday?"
really like count that against you though?
No, they didn't care. No, they were just like, "Oh yeah, Monday works." I mean,
Oh, okay.
luckily they were flexible, but again, just leaving the state somehow.
Or
somehow
for
that
Legends,
happened.
they first contacted me. I was going to a convention in San Jose, and then the following weekend I was flying to Dallas for a convention. And they contacted me, and it's like, "I'd love to take the test, but I can't do it for like 2 weeks." And they're like, "Yeah, okay." I was like,
wow.
"Shit, are you serious?"
Did they give you the test
chill.
eventually?
No, yeah, they did. But that was like
Wow.
after, when I said like, "Hey, I'm good to go," which I almost, I ran into problems with that. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I did a test for Warner Brothers show. I did a revisionist test for Cartoon Network show. So by then, I already had about 4 tests under my belt before I tested for Legends. Now,
Keep testing everybody.
yes. And testings, yeah, it's
It's a learning process too.
it is, yeah, and I know it sucks that
Yeah.
it's working for free, no guarantee. But at the same point, it's like you have to interview for jobs.
You gotta
Yeah.
lay your eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See which one hatches.
I mean, there's a limit. I don't mind testing, but it's more so. I think it's just there's too much work, and then there's the right amount of work for test. If I could be controversial, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes the tests are too strenuous.
Mm-hmm.
Most artists and producers and showrunners can tell if a person has the chops, within a very easily.
Yeah.
You don't have to do like a whole dissertation.
It's like
just
doing
figure
it's
it
like
out.
writing like a 10-page cover letter. It's like
Yeah,
And
that's
I've
a little
heard
much.
of
Yeah.
cases
Yeah.
where they're a little lenient too. Like I remember my friend Amanda, the one that was on here a couple episodes ago. I remember she was telling me because I was in a situation with Rick and Morty where I couldn't turn it in by the due date because of something that came up. I forgot what it was. I think it was like I had to turn it in like a day late. And I was freaking out. She was like, "No, it's fine. Like, just go ahead and just let them know." And I told them, I was honest with them, completely honest. I was like, "I'm sorry, I have to and they were fine. I ended up actually getting that job too. And then Amanda told me a similar story where she had to turn hers in a little bit late too because of something that happened or whatever. And she got that job. So, like sometimes they'll be
Honesty.
like, yeah.
It's because it's about the quality of the work. It's not a matter of like you get
Definitely, yeah. No, that's
one.
100% true. One of the colorists we hired on Harmon Quest, after we had like 10 submissions, somebody contacted me like 3 days later because I was giving the test out and doing that whole thing. Like, "Hey, is it too late? I know you did the test last week, but I'd love to test." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, why not?" We haven't made a final decision yet. He handed his test in like 2 days after that, and we ended up hiring him because he was by far better than the people that tested last week. So it really just depends on the skill level that you're putting out, and and if you can do it.
Because life happens.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that.
Even like I said with that Warner show, I said like, "Hey, I'm out of town." They're like, "Okay, well, you don't have to do the entire thing. Like, just cut out these last 3 pages of the script." And I was like,
"Oh wow,
all right,
that's nice."
So now we're at the Legends test, which through him. So, he pretty much he owns a piece of my soul. 'Cause I'm indebted to him. But they said, "Oh, do you know Storyboard Pro?" And I'm like, trying my best to come up with the best answer that doesn't sound like no, like a straight up no. But they were already very patient with me. Like I said, they gave me 2 weeks before I was back in town to do this test, and they said like, you do need to do this it's like you need to do this test in that program. And I'm like, it's like I can do. Don't you worry about it. I think I know some people.
Even if you can't, it's good to have that mentality that you will and you can.
Yes.
Don't ever say, "Oh, can't. Sorry, all right, I'm screwed." Like be like, "Yes, I can." And
never say can't.
Research.
Might as well give it a try. Yeah, look up the program, learn how to use it, and do your damnedest.
Well, there's a trial run of it anyway.
Yeah.
So if you don't have it, 30 days, and that's what I wound up doing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the program.
Yeah.
So I told that to him, and I was like, I don't. It's like they want me. I have to do it in this program, but I don't know how to use it. And he's like, all right, come over to Rick and Morty on Monday, and I'll show you how to do it. So I show up at the studio.
Do you remember that, Brian?
Yeah, I remember this.
For like an hour. I sit down with him.
It's such an easy program to use.
And he showed me
Brian
how to
taught
use
you?
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just like.
It takes an hour to learn this program.
Just strolled right into Rick and Morty and just sit down with him, and he's just showing me
That was
how
actually
to do
a requirement for my job too.
Yeah?
My first job. Yeah, they asked me if I knew Storyboard Pro, and I didn't. And I just went on YouTube for like a week and just looked at tutorials on the basics. And it's like once you know all these other programs, you're like, oh, okay, this is nothing.
Same stuff, keyframing.
And you learn on the job.
Yeah, exactly. So last, I started working on this test, but there was a few things I forgot how to do. And I remember texting you. I'm like, hey, I apologize. I feel really bad, but do you have the time? I want to go over this test with you a little bit. There's some things I forgot how to do, and I'm not realizing that I think it was and you said, yeah, just meet me at this bar. And it was a bar around the corner from his place.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
was that my birthday?
It was the night before your birthday, and I hadn't realized that. And I'm thinking, is he just meeting up with a couple friends? No, he's having a huge get together, the night before his birthday. And here I am feeling like a shithead for bringing my laptop, my MacBook. I'm like, hey, and you're having a few glasses of wine. I'm like,
that was a fun birthday.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, hey, can you look over this? And then it got to the point where I think you're on my left and Juan from Rick and Morty is on my right,
and MC was there too.
Yeah. Everyone just putting their input and giving me critique on my tests so far.
Brian's birthday party, they were all teaching you. They're all teaching you lessons.
It says a lot about this guy.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Brian's amazing.
The best Brian.
And
he's a good friend.
You did have a lot to drink that night, but
I got
you at the right time.
I wasn't that drunk.
You know what? He catered to you first.
He did.
That's pretty amazing, man.
Good friend.
Put off a few more sangrias.
So I think we're a little over an hour at this point, so we should probably start.
Oh God, sorry, I really dragged this up.
No, it's perfectly cool, man.
I thought I wouldn't have anything to say.
No, it's all good, dude. No, this is great.
That was good.
Yeah, this is really interesting stuff. But before we start wrapping stuff up, I want to. Do you have anything else to say about Legends?
That was learning the job as I go. I think being a revisionist. And this was my first in studio gig. Being a revisionist was perfect because, while I was really confused about showing up, not having any work to do, and then thinking like, am I gonna get in trouble for just sitting here, or like, do I even deserve to be here? Or what the hell am I doing here? Yeah. It was perfect because I got to learn the program, and just so then walking out, I'm like, well, now I know how to do Storyboard Pro, and all that, and it led to my next job, and I was able to just day one just.
What was your next job? Can we say, or is it?
Hot Streets, the pilot I worked on, got picked up as a series.
Oh, nice.
And I got to come back and be a storyboard artist on that. And that was really cool. I think it's a neat little narrative because I'm just someone just breaking in the industry. You work on a pilot, which, it's a newborn baby cartoon. And then it gets picked up, and then you get to still be part of that process of just weaning your cartoon child.
Yeah, that must be a good feeling.
It grow. Yeah, so it was really neat to be, to work on something from the ground up and then continue. Especially for me, because I'm just breaking in. I'm new to this.
Yeah.
So
no, it's great to have somebody's kind of perspective, somebody that's new to the industry. Like you said, you've been out here less than 2 years.
Yeah.
In LA, like June is going to be your 2-year anniversary, right?
Yes.
So this
Everybody
is
wish him happy
great
anniversary. Happy anniversary.
It's a great perspective to have for sure. Especially so. You're saying revisionist was really a key point in you kind of learning as you went.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's good advice, I think, for sporters that are looking to get a gig.
I think revision is a great job too, because you're learning what doesn't work. Like we don't like the way they did this, or this doesn't work because of this.
Yeah.
It's great.
Can you kind of real quick describe exactly what, because people know what storyboard artists are, but maybe somebody who's listening to this podcast for the first time doesn't know what a revisionist does exactly. So could you give them a quick little rundown of what a storyboard revisionist does?
And please feel free to correct me at all. Pretty much, a revisionist is brought in. Pretty much, a storyboard artist, a team of artists will board an episode, and then they got to move on because there's other episodes in that season to do.
Yeah. And
they have a revisionist there to pick up the slack when something doesn't look quite right, or there's there's rewrites in the scripts, or just simply the director doesn't like how something turned out.
Yeah.
They go to the revisionist like, hey, we need you to fix up this scene. Here's the notes, and they'll write them on the file, on the frame.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you just go in there and you just redraw some stuff or just reposition some characters.
Do you ever put stuff on model?
Yeah, that's just Legends especially was all about being on model. Especially in
what does that mean?
Legends was almost like the boards are so identical to how the show actually looks.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what it means.
So and it's
for people who don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm just asking.
But it's you can't really a show like Legends. I can't go in there drawing them looking like Dragon Ball characters.
Yeah, for sure.
They'd be pretty pissed off.
I mean, they're not really even that anthropomorphic, right? They're kind of very simple shapes.
Yes.
Very graphic show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes, like I said, sometimes you're cleaning up some people's scenes or fixing them. Or other times they say hey, we just need this whole new scene boarded, and there was some times where I, boarded new scenes,
which is a great practice for your next gig where you were were storyboarders instead of revisionists.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Very cool, man. That's
entry level. I always stress that too with people. I'm like, entry level positions. If you think that you can't reach that position, because people are like, no, I want that position though. I'm like, yeah, but you'll learn more here, especially if the competition is that tough, and most likely these people already have that job because of people that they know or that they worked with. So try an entry level position.
Yeah,
they have
years of experience. Because I think Steve is actually the first person on our podcast with, you've had a lot of time as an artist experience, but this is your shortest time as a professional in the industry experience.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it comes. I mean, less than a year almost. So.
And I've had way more opportunities out here than I ever did back in New York. And
that's really good.
Because like I said, within my first year, I had 5 tests.
Mm-hmm.
You've already displayed so many things that people can do out here when they're out here. Go to cons, show your artwork at cons.
Make friends.
Make friends with
Make
people
friends.
That
That's
over things that you like. One Piece. You guys bonded over One Piece.
Yeah, and that got you somewhere.
I wish I could make more friends on the intellectual level, but most of the time I'm like, oh, you like this thing? We're hanging out
now. That's how it starts. And that's fine. Those are the people to make friends with. Yeah. And take tests.
I brought this up earlier. I think another one of the things that got me the job at Legends was one of the showrunners really liked the Sailor Hill, the Sailor Moon King of the Hill
Sailor
piece.
Hill.
And they've seen it before, and they were like, "You did that?"
Yeah, because they looked at my website and like, sorry, website, hilarious stuff, and I'm just like, yes.
Make your mark.
Quite.
Yeah, be you. That's good advice. Be you. Do what you want to do, and then people will notice it if it's passion and you love it.
Not only that, draw what you love. It's I think there's a fan art stigma and all that, but
Don't put it in your portfolio.
I've gotten work through Rick and Morty fan art, and someone liked my weird King of the Hill Sailor Moon crossover. So
that's what the internet is.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, yeah. Put it up there. People are gonna see it.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool.
That's what reminds you why you're drawing in the first place.
Yeah, man.
It's come up with your own stuff too, and it's not easy. It's especially not easy for me, but it just I think a lot of people might get in the mindset. It's like, no, I gotta draw this because this is what leads to work and the profession, all that. And I think I think me being proof of it. There's no right or wrong way to doing this. Yeah. Just be passionate about it because your passion will show.
That's what this podcast's for.
Draw what you love. Okay, so before we wrap things up, I like to try to like do a quick little overview of like your story. So let's see if we can get it.
And then we have to do Brian's words of wisdom.
Oh yeah, right. Brian's words of wisdom.
This should be good.
Brian's like, oh shit, what am I gonna say? Okay, so you started off preschool age, younger than that. You're watching Dumbo. Disney movies. You moved and you decided to watch some Nickelodeon and some Cartoon Network. You got inspired to do this. You painted with your grandma. You were like, I want to do some art. I know I want to do it, but I don't know where to take it. All throughout middle school and high school, you're like, what am I going to do with my life? SVA, you start cartooning. You love cartooning, but after you finish, you don't know where you're going to go. But you decide to do cons, and you love doing cons. You make a killing doing cons, and at some point, you go over to LA to do an expo. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the defining moment where you're like, yeah, I'm going to move there with your friend. Roommate, what was it?
Yeah. Both. Friend, roommate. You come out to LA. Thanks to Brian, you get a job in the industry pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm. And a couch.
To crash on. There's always a guy that has a couch. Like, that's great advice. A guy, a girl.
There's always a person.
Always a person that has a couch. Like, for me, it was my friend Scout. She let me crash at her place for, like, literally 5 weeks, and she didn't charge me a dime. Like, you got to find a person like that.
Just pick up after yourself. That's all.
Just be polite. Find a good person like that because they're out there. We'll be that person for you. Maybe, probably not. But, I mean, get to know us first. We have to be friends. But, yeah, then you ended up getting a job on Legend of Chamberlain Heights. That was through Brian, though. That one was, he helped you get that gig. Cool. And then you just kind of catapulted from there. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty cool story, man. What was your biggest struggle?
Honestly, it was the first couple months being out here. Because I think as soon as we moved into our place, my first night in there, it was tough because it didn't feel like home. Mm-hmm. And like we didn't have all the furniture in there yet. Like it took a while before like we really started having like a living room and all that because I was just away from my family. And I did have friends here, but I was away from.
Got a little homesick.
Yeah, very homesick.
That definitely has an effect on you.
And kind of clueless on what I was gonna do. I just thought like, well, just gonna keep telling people and asking people about anyone that's hiring, just contacting people. But
your morale was low. That was your big
morale was low. Yeah. I will admit that. I did not come out here thinking the sun was shining out of my ass.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
It was the complete opposite. Yes.
But once you kind of got that foot where it needed to go, you kind of were like, oh, it's working. You kind of follow that momentum.
Stay positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. No, I've seen people with their morale go so low that they actually ended up going back to where they were from several times before they ended up out here. Yeah, so I've seen that happen many times. So sometimes it takes multiple tries. You don't always.
And that's good to hear too. Yeah, because usually I think that that move home could be devastating, and some people might not be able to bounce back from that. So
yeah, for sure. I've seen that. Cool. So before we end, do you have any last minute advice for somebody? Because you took a kind of a non-traditional route. You didn't go to school for animation.
Very non-traditional.
You decided you did cartooning. So do you have any last minute advice for someone who maybe is going a similar route as you that you can kind of reach out to them and give them some words of wisdom? Yeah,
just do your research. Like find what it is that you want to do, like what profession specifically you want to do. Because you might like to draw cartoons, but what can you do with that? Do you want to be an animator? Do you want to be a storyboard artist? Do you want to be a concept artist? All that. Find out what works for you, and then just research. And I don't know any websites in particular, but I think we live in a day and age, you just go on YouTube and you could just find
podcasts this
podcasts, wonderful I think this is where you start here. Just look up what it takes. And I think one thing to stress is, though, some programs are required for certain jobs, is the tools don't make the man or woman. It's
artist behind the computer.
It's just you can make anything with the shittiest supplies. It doesn't matter.
One time I heard what somebody said once. They were like, you know what? If you give Steven Spielberg a Barbie cam from Toys R Us, he can make a good film.
Yes.
I'm like, that's pretty good advice. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Hell, if I knew I could have just made an animation just by just drawing on index cards, I would have done that. Make myself a little flip book.
I heard, and I don't know if this is just a thing that's not true. The Steven Spielberg did the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark boulder sequence with stick figures.
On a Barbie cam?
Yeah, because he can't draw, and they didn't have board artists for that, and he was just like, I want it to look like this, and just drew stick figures.
Yeah, he told me. Not told me. Me and Stevie.
How is Stevie
he's
doing?
Great. No, I mean, I saw in an interview once, and he's just telling the interviewer, I feel like I'm interviewing you. Maybe I interviewed him. No, but he said to the interviewer, he started off. He started his career by making flip books. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Spielberg.
Yeah.
He ended up producing some cartoons eventually, which is pretty cool. So
that's bought a Barbie cam.
And maybe bought a Barbie.
I think it's also just drawing. It is like a muscle. You don't have to draw every day. I think that's a stigma too, and I think I go through it as well. As if you're not always producing art, you feel like a shitty person, and you don't have to draw every single day. But just make sure you continue to do it because it's like a muscle, and if you don't work that muscle, it's gonna just shrink, and you're gonna be a disheveled person.
Also
That's
great.
true. And then also constantly be inspired by things. Look at art that inspires you. Bathe in it. Be around people that inspire you. Or even friendly competition's always great too. They kind of remind you why you like to draw in the first place. Sure. That'll kind of get you if they're doing that, I can do that. Maybe I should do it too. All right, and then that gets you drawing, and then there you go. You guys are drawing together. Yay!
Cool.
And try not to compare yourself to other artists because everyone's just working at a different pace.
And stop calling yourself crappy because we're all there at one point.
And don't focus on making something good.
No.
Don't hold back. It's I don't want to make that. I'm gonna wait till I come up with a good idea. Because no one ever just makes something this is good. I'm gonna make it, and turns out it's good.
Perfection's the enemy of the good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just create. Just keep drawing. And if it's good, it will be good.
Yeah.
If it's not, then
that's probably the best advice I've heard in a while. Because
I stole it from somebody.
Yeah. I have a teacher, my sketching teacher at CDA. He taught us, and I'm sure everybody teaches this. It takes 100. Drawings to how people post drawings on online and stuff, and then people think oh wow, they sketched that in their sketchbook, and the first sketch that they did was perfect. Nope, you don't know that these people draw 100 times and then just choose that one little doodle that they actually love the most out of the 100 drawings. It takes 100 drawings to get that one good drawing. So just keep that in mind, because I'm one of those people.
Yeah,
I'll draw forever and be like, all right, I like this one.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So do we have anything else? We got a lot of good advice for people that are watching. We got a really great story as well. Do we have anything else? Anything else to say at all?
Brian's words of wisdom?
Persistence.
Persistence.
I think that's all I have to say for this
one word of wisdom.
It's pretty good. It's pretty accurate.
It's a pretty good word.
We're going a little over time today,
right.
so keep it short.
Great word of wisdom. Persistence. Keep drawing. Draw what you love. Don't worry about making it perfect. That's my favorite thing I've heard so far today. So yeah, these are all really good advice. We had a really good story here. Anybody have anything else? Do you want to plug where we can find you, Steve?
Sure. Most social media, it's so easy to find me because I have the most creative username. It's just my name, Steve Yurko. All
Keep
one
it
word.
simple.
You want to spell it real quick? Steve. Oh, I'll spell it, I guess. Yurko.
Yeah, all one word. You can follow me, twitter.com/Steve Yurko,
Yeah.
tumblr.com/Steve Yurko. Visit my website, steveyurko.com. Those are the three big ones. My Twitter, forgive me, if I'm I was so busy working on Hot Streets, I wasn't posting any art, just tweeting about wrestling constantly. And this past week, I've just been doing a lot of art posts again. Nice. So if you do follow me on Twitter, just be patient. Art will come.
Nice.
Don't hate.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think it was really great to have the perspective of somebody who's relatively green in the industry, pretty new, working in it for less than 2 years, and I think it's great to have kind of your perspective on things. So thank you so much for joining us, Steve. It was great
Thank you.
having you here on the Ass Podcast. I hope you enjoyed your time inside of the ass.
It's a nice ass. It's a nice, spacious ass. It seems a lot of room has been made in here. I know a lot of hard work is put into this.
We just got a colonic.
A lot of elbow grease.
A lot of room.
Thank you, Matt Danner.
Cool, yeah, and of course, shout out to Matt Danner for letting us use his awesome place here. This is great. So thanks, everybody, for joining us in the Ass. This was a wonderful experience, great story, good advice all around. We'll see you guys next time in the Animation Success Stories podcast in the Ass. Peace. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Subscribe.